Hey everyone, welcome back to my race recap from this past weekend's RATL race in Monroe Falls, Ohio. This was RATL number 2. The reason you didn't see RATL number 1 from me is because it was so cold and raining, and I thought I turned on the GoPro, but clearly I did not. That's why there's zero video. But today we got some video. And I say some video because I'm new to the video making piece of this GoPro, and you have 38 minutes out of a 48-minute race because my SD card got full. So super sorry about that. Now this isn't a 38-minute video. This is the recap. The full video has already been loaded and posted. But unfortunately, we don't have the last 12 minutes, which is where we were in the breakaway and sprinting for the finish. So a little bit of a bummer. If you'd like to watch the full video minus the 12 minutes, you can check out the full video. Otherwise, I'll walk you through just some kind of highlights here. Anyway, as I said, this is the Masters race. It's a combined field, but there are 3 groups. There's 35 plus, 45 plus, and 55 plus, all racing at the same time. So we've got about 50 guys out on the course. And as you can see, it's late April here in Ohio, which means we have this gorgeous spring weather. It's raining a little bit. You can see it rained all the prior day. That's why there's so much water on the road. And it's about 50 degrees, so we're still fairly well bundled up for this early season race. We are on a neutral start, kind of a rolling start. It started us in the parking lot on the course, takes us all the way up to the start-finish line, which this course finishes on a hill, which you'll see here in just a second. The top of the hill, the car will pull off and the race will begin. We're coming over this little bridge here, and my teammate on the left, Brian, bunny hops over a couple of these bumps. Brian is the owner of Gear Up Velo Bike Shop, which is a team sponsor in a local bike shop in Independence, Ohio. But Brian specializes in cross racing and is a former flatland BMX trick rider. So seeing him bunny hop over stuff is not uncommon. In fact, somebody in the group yelled, "Hey Brian, it's not October," meaning it's not cross season for jumping. We're getting real close to the start-finish line here. You'll see the car pull off. You'll see us start to increase the effort as we are right now. And right here, you're going to see the line on the road. So now the race has actually begun. I've got 2 teammates in today's race. Brian is in the same age group as me. He's in the 45 plus, and Jeff Kompa is in the 55 age group. Jeff actually hasn't been crit racing for about 2 years. He does a lot of mountain biking and cross racing himself. So this was his first time back racing crits in a couple of years, and he did fantastic. He actually took second in age group today, so great job, Jeff. The rider in front of me here from UPMC is from Pennsylvania. He's somebody that I kind of paid attention to early in this race, and what you're going to see here in a second as we move into the parking lot is he's getting ready to make an attack, and I can tell because he's in the drops. He's looking back a couple of times. He's in fourth wheel, and there he goes. He decides to take off, and I'm just going to follow this early move. This parking lot is a little tricky. You'll see on the elevation there, it's a slight false flat. So it does take a little bit of effort for people through the parking lot. Here we are again in the parking lot. It's a great place for people to attack, and you're going to see Summit Freewheelers send an attack right there. That's Tom Weaver, a very strong rider in the 55 plus category. We raced together today in this race, obviously, but also in the category 1, 2, 3 race a little bit later on in the day. But as you can see, he and another guy get a little bit of a gap. I'm on the front. I really have no obligation to chase this down. They're a different group than me, but it's also still very early in this race. That said, John from Bike Ohio decides he wants to chase it down. Now, John is clearly very strong as he puts in a pretty big dig here. John and I raced together and against each other a couple of years ago when we were both in the category 4-5 fields. So it was great to see him riding as strong as he is today. I actually looked him up on Strava after the race, and this dude's been putting in 18 and 20-hour weeks pretty consistently all year, and it showed. Even just this bridge, he took the full lead of it, didn't flick his elbow and try to get me to pull through at all. And once we caught him, he rode right over the top. So he even put in a little bit of an attack here as we moved up this start-finish line hill. On the screen, speaking of the hill, you're going to notice some of my data. You've got speed and power on the left-hand side of the screen. You've got the course map on the right and elevation. And as we go up this hill for the start-finish, you'll see the elevation peaks out at about 5%. The course itself is a 1.1 mile closed course loop with a lake in the center of it, hence the name Races at the Lake. Here we are moving once again into the parking lot. And when you exit the parking lot, it's a kind of a shaded area. We've always called it the mossy corner because it's always a little damp and there's some moss on the road. It'll come into play pretty big later. But again, we're in the parking lot, and that means someone's going to attack. And so Summit does an early attack here as well. Just going to follow this guy's wheel as we keep this stitched together. Prior week, these moves happened pretty consistently as well, and eventually one got away. Brian, my teammate, was able to get into that move and stay with that move all the way through to the finish for a sprint finish in the top 10. But this week I decided I wasn't really going to let that happen. I wanted to make sure that we were represented early and often, and so if there were any threatening moves that were going to go, that we were in it. So I stayed position-wise in the top 3 to 5 most of the day. Here we've got just a little bit of an early gap, so we decided to rotate through and see if we can get it to stick. It didn't, heads up, but we gave it a good shot here just to stretch the field a little bit more and create some separation. Again, we're back in the parking lot. Anybody gonna guess what's gonna happen? You'll notice 2 guys are up the road, and we're gonna see a Summit Freewheelers guy here come across. This is Javier, super strong rider, pro. He knows what he's doing, but he's looking to block and give that gap some room. So I decided I'm gonna take this outside line. There's the moss. I nearly slid out right there, shoulder to shoulder with Javi. I wouldn't say it was an aggressive move, but definitely I'm sorry for Javi for putting him in any kind of danger. Neither of us went down. It was I think an appropriate move, but with the moss there, I probably should have been a little bit more cautious. Now we're kind of on the move, and there's going to be another near crash here for me. So this like 25 seconds of road was pretty rough. You'll notice the rider in front of me. You can't see my wheel, but I'm behind him. Not overlapping him, and pretty soon here he's going to swing hard right, and he just clips my front tire. I actually came completely unclipped, thinking I was about to crash. Didn't, but you could see I'm shuffling back through the group now, back on the power, and starting to just kind of catch myself here. A little bit of an adrenaline rush, so calming down, getting ready to hit the hill, and time to move back up into position. All right, back up to the front, and perfect timing as Summit decides they're going to send it. And this is a strong move, so I'm going to jump on this one right away. I actually think we're at the time of the race where one of these moves is going to be the move that stays away. The group's starting to get a little tired, so I'm not going to let any of these really go without either me immediately following or really baiting another team to follow if they aren't part of that group. But this one I like a lot. We're going to work all the way through the parking lot here, and then we'll start a little rotation. I just want you to watch on the right-hand side all that moss on this corner. So again, I took an aggressive line earlier on that corner. Definitely didn't want to be dangerous in any way, but didn't want to let Summit Freewheelers just kind of block at the front. So here we are. We're starting a little bit of a rotation. We think we've got a gap. Got a couple of guys from each team here, so it's a well-represented mix, but it just doesn't work. Nobody's fully committed to doing this. So here we are again, another Summit attack. We're on the back side of the course. This one goes strong. The second team has to follow. Here's John again. Now I really like the makeup of this move, right? So we've got Summit, the other large team, and John, who has proven to be pretty darn strong today. All up the move, I jump on this. This is a really strong group. If we can get organized and work together, we have a good chance of staying away. And unfortunately, by the time we get to the hill, the move starts to fizzle out. You can see the power just dropping pretty quickly. It does open the door if somebody wants to counter. It's not really a counter from Tom and Summit, but Tom does move to the front and tries to keep the pace high. Now there's a decent move. Again, that's the UPMC guy that I marked earlier, and so now we're kind of taking, if you will, a little bit of a secondary move here. It wasn't too aggressive, but it's got the makings, right? We've got John up there, UPMC, and then this is Jamie in front of me. So again, it's a decent foursome. If we can just continue to work together and get into a rhythm, I think we could have a move on our hands. But needless to say, at this point in the race, it was pretty clear that sooner or later, one of these kind of attacks was going to lead to a full-on break. Some guys were getting pretty tired. You could tell the accelerations were starting to wear people out a little bit. And here we go. You're going to see some riders in front of us. This is actually lap traffic, so there's nobody in front of us. We're the first four on the road. But lap traffic does create a couple of opportunities for us to get around people, especially if you're in corners. So we move pretty quickly through the parking lot here. We start to shuffle around a little bit. There is a gap. It's just not a big gap. And it's certainly not one that we've been working with at this time. But we're not ready to give it up. So we're just going to keep the pressure on at the front of the race. See, I skipped a turn right there because I'm trying to see who's committed and who's not committed to making the next breakaway move. Yeah, he wants to see us rotate through. He says, hey, we've got a little bit of a gap here. Tom gets on the front, puts down a little bit of power, and starts to get us rotating again. Again, I just want to see who's committed. Nobody's really shown a true sense of commitment to this break. And I'm just not going to work if the group's not going to be committed to it. I'd rather let it reshuffle, come together, and see the next attack go. He gives me the elbow, wants me to pull through. At this point, I'm happy to do so. So I put a little bit of power down on the hill. I'm not going too hard. But this was the final move that did get away. We stayed away. And as I said, I didn't get the last 14 minutes of this race. But you could see I won the 45 field.